All right, so once you get the hang of FOIL, sometimes you can, depending on the problem and how complex it is and how many variables and so forth and exponents, sometimes you can do some mental math and do it without showing some work. So like number 38, for example, so just have a single variable, so q plus 2 in the first binomial and q plus 3 in the second. So I know that the first times first, q times q is q squared, right? And then the last times last, 2 times 3 is 6, right? So that part is going to be, there aren't going to be any like terms with usually the first times the first and the last times the last. So the like terms are going to be when we do the outer times outer and inner times inner. So we would get 3q if we do outer times outer, and 2q with the inner times inner. They're both positive, so we'd add them. So 2q plus 3q is 5q. So that's kind of how you can piece it together using mental math. Okay. All right, so let's try 42 a little faster. So when I do the first times first, m times m, it's going to be m squared. Then I'm going to do positive 7 times negative 8 is negative 56. And then when I do the outer times outer, I get negative 8m. Inner times inner is positive 7m. Negative 8m plus 7m is negative 1m. And so it's going to be negative 1m. All right, and then the last one here. Here we have, so outer times outer, first times first is t squared. Last times last is positive 16. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. And then our middle term is going to come from outer times outer, negative 4t. Inner times inner is also negative 4t. So if I add those, negative 4 plus negative 4, I get negative 8, right? And then just tag on the t. So negative 8t plus 16. T squared minus 8t plus 16. All right. All right, and for our last examples, I wanted to show you a situation where you're multiplying more than 2 binomials, right? So in 64, we're multiplying 3 binomials together. And there's not a great way to do these, or kind of a straightforward way to get right to the answer. Basically what you have to do is multiply 2 of them first, and then when you get the result, you're going to multiply or distribute the last one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with these two. Oops. So I'm going to start with these two. So I'm going to do first times first. Y times y is y squared. Y times 3 is 3y. Negative 1 times y is negative 1y. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Okay. All right. So you can do that mentally if you want. So I'm actually not going to bring down the next step. So then I'm going to multiply y squared, combine like terms. 3y minus y is 2y. I get minus 3. So then we'll just bring down the y minus 4. All right, so now we're going to distribute. So we'll just do y squared times y is y cubed. Y squared times negative 4, negative 4y squared. So this isn't technically FOIL, right? Because we're multiplying a trinomial times a binomial, but we've done that before, right? We're just distributing. 2y times y is 2y squared. 2y times negative 4, negative 8y. And then lastly, we have our negative 3 times y. It's negative 3y. And negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. Okay? So now, instead of FOIL, like where we have 4 terms, we end up with 6 terms, right? Because we're multiplying a trinomial by a binomial. All right, so now we combine like terms. So y cubed doesn't have a like term, so it's going to come down. The y squareds, we have a couple of those. So negative 4y squared plus 2y squared is negative 2y squared. Okay, then we have a couple y's here. Negative 8y minus 3y is negative 11y. And then the positive 12 will come down. All right, so there we go. And our final example, let's try number 68. So same thing, I'm going to start by multiplying these first two together, although it doesn't matter which two you multiply first. So here I'll have 1/3 times 1/3 w times 1/3 w is 1/9 w squared, right? So remember, multiply top by top, bottom times bottom. So 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 3 on the bottom is 9. W times w is w squared. So 1/3 w times 3. So 1/3 of 3 is just 1, right? So it'd just be 1w. Okay. All right. Negative 3 times 1/3 w is negative 1w, right? 3 times a third is 1. Negative times a positive is a negative. So it's negative 1w. And then negative 3 times positive 3 is negative 9. All right. So then we combine like terms. W minus w, that cancels out, right? So we just end up with negative 1/9, or excuse me, positive 1/9 w squared minus 9. And then we have w minus 6 that we bring down, right? Okay. So don't forget to bring down this other one, right? Sometimes people multiply these and they feel accomplished, like they got a lot done, and they did, but there's still more to do, right? So don't forget about that. All right, so next we're going to so then here we are going to FOIL, right? Because we have a binomial times a binomial. So 1/9 w squared times w is going to be 1/9 w cubed. Okay, and then we'll multiply 1/9 w squared times negative 6, which would be negative, and let's do 1/9 times negative 6 here for a second. So if we did top times top, bottom times bottom, we get negative 6 over 9. Then we can reduce that to 2/3, right? So this will be negative 2/3 w squared. Okay. And then we have negative 9 times w is negative 9w. Negative 9 times negative 6 is positive 54. So then we combine like terms, if possible, but we don't have any like terms, right? Those are all different variable expressions, and so that's as far as we can go. All right, so that concludes our lesson. So email me if you have any questions, and we'll practice this in class.